Robbie Whiteley, you're very welcome. Come on in, sir.
Thanks very much, Stephen.
Don't move the water too much now. Good stuff. How are you finding that?
Yeah, it's chilly, all right.
Robbie, I suppose I want to thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
And I suppose we'll get into kind of the marathon stuff because I suppose you're done 12 marathons now.
Yeah, I'd have 12 marathons under me belt, yeah.
So I definitely want to get into that. But
Yeah.
before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about, so obviously we would have gone to school together.
That's right, yeah.
So I suppose my memory of you in school would have been, I suppose, the strong, kind of big silent type lad, who I have to say I wouldn't have messed with you, but always a really, really sound lad. How does that fit in terms of what the reality of you felt at that time?
Yeah, I suppose that kind of summed up the type of person I was back then, you know. I suppose I had kind of a lot of my own stuff, you know, going on when I was younger, a lot of internal issues going on, you know. I lacked a lot of confidence and stuff, and I suppose I had my own trauma that I was dealing with, so I kind of developed this defense mechanism, you know, where I was very super sensitive.
Yeah.
You know, I was really kind of super sensitive and kind of protective over myself, like, you know. So, you know, I think that's where the whole thing comes from, that, you know, that whole image of not messing with that chap.
Yeah,
you know, that type of
yeah.
way, you know, I kind of was giving off that vibe.
Yeah.
You know, kind of maybe unknowns to myself, you know, but it's just kind of internal stuff that I had going on, and yeah, it was carrying a lot of anger and stuff like that as well. I was a very kind of angry individual internally, you know, so I kind of just want to be left alone, you know,
Yeah, I
that type of
get
way.
you, yeah.
And so yeah, that's kind of the way it was for me when I was younger, you know. So.
And I suppose then from going into school, so how did you find school and I suppose finishing school then?
Yeah, you know, sometimes I wish I could go back and do it again, but unfortunately you can't, you know.
Yeah.
That's just the way things are, you know. You know, school was okay for me, you know, especially like primary school with some great memories and stuff, you know, some great times, you know. But I suppose in secondary school, when you start getting a bit older and become more aware of stuff, and you know, stuff I had from childhood, you know, all traumas that I may have been carrying from childhood was kind of start to, you know, expose themselves a bit more, or expose stuff within me a bit more when I got into my teenage years.
Yeah.
And you know, that would have been about the time I would have discovered substances.
Yeah.
And I would have kind of started using substances in order to deal with what was going on with me internally. So obviously when I first started engaging in substance misuse, I latched onto it because it fixed all the problems that I was feeling inside at the time. So
Became like a crutch.
yeah, exactly, you know, and I was doing that, you know, started doing that when I was in going to secondary school at the time, and you know, I was throughout the years then things start spiraling out of control, you know, so it affected my school life then, you know, and I wasn't really able to participate in school and give it 100% then at the time, you know, so I barely made it through school and barely got my leaving cert done by the skin of my teeth, you know, so you know, all the stuff that I was doing would have you know, affected my overall results and stuff like that, you know, and kind of I was really a sinking ship by the time I was finishing school, you know.
I get you. And then so what was life after school like then?
Yeah, things got really bad after school. You know, the whole thing about, you know, like I work with young people nowadays, and a big problem is when young people are taking substances, it kind of pauses them. It stops them from developing, you know, and kind of I think that's what may have happened with myself, you know, through substance misuse at a young age. I kind of put a pause in my life and my development process, you know. So I was there, I was finishing school, but I was still a little boy, kind of, you
I
know.
get you, yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't really mature and stuff. I couldn't hold down a job and stuff. I felt really crap about myself. Yeah, and yeah, I was just kind of getting by, getting jobs, little jobs here and there, and I couldn't keep a job either, you know, that type of way. So it's only really last a couple of weeks in a job, and I'd go back onto social welfare and stuff like that. So yeah, it wasn't really a nice time, you know,
Yeah.
and I did that for years, you know.
And I suppose would it be fair to say a kind of a addiction that set in at that stage after school that it started to, would you say that that would have had effect on your life then?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, like the time we were finishing school and stuff, you know, that things would have really went downhill for me then, you know, like the addiction progressed, you know. It doesn't ever get any easier in addiction, you know. The more you stay in it, the worse things get.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the type of practice where, you know, where it gets better after a certain amount of time. It only gets worse, and that was my experience, you know. Each month that went by and each year that went by, things were getting an awful lot worse, you know.
Yeah.
So,
And I suppose, because I suppose addiction is quite a misunderstood thing at times. What do you feel is something from somebody from the outside looking in that's quite a misunderstood thing in terms of addictions that people on the outside don't really understand?
yeah, well, first and foremost, what I'd say is, like, not everyone who takes drugs like is a scumbag or anything like that. I really think that people who use drugs are using them to deal with internal issues that they have going on.
Yeah.
The way I see it is, if you're okay in yourself, you wouldn't be using substances.
Yeah.
Like, a person that's sound in themselves wouldn't be taking drugs, you know. So I think you have to look at it from that perspective, you know. If someone is using drugs and doing that to themselves, you know, they have something going on internally, they need a bit of help.
There's a reason behind it.
There's a reason behind it, yeah.
And I suppose when you were in the depths of addiction then, was it, at the time, was it something that you felt that you wanted to change, or did it feel like it was impossible to change at that time?
Yeah, look, I always wanted, like, I would have given anything to have gotten clean, but the problem was I just couldn't do it, you know. Yeah, it was just so hard at the time, like, you know, when you're just caught up in it, you know. But yeah, no, every day I kind of wanted to get out, but I just didn't know how to, you know. I just didn't know how to get clean at the time, and I just had to go through it and reach my own rock bottom.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's, I suppose, I was going to ask that about at your rock bottom, or what was it? Because obviously, I suppose we know the where we are now, and in terms of what you've come through and the resilience that you've shown to get to where you are today. But was there a point, or what was it that made you finally said, "Look, I need to do something here," or that kind of was the catalyst for that action that you took to starting to get sober? Then.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, in terms of rock bottoms, they're very individual to each addict. You know, everyone has their own rock bottom. You know, you might have a person that might have one encounter with the guards, let's say, for example, and that might be enough for them to turn their lives around. But other people may have numerous encounters with the guards and have overdose experiences and treatment centres and jails and mental institutions and stuff like that until they meet their rock bottom, you know. But you know, for me, I had to go with the second option. I had to go through an awful lot of stuff, you know, an awful lot of carnage, until it kind of came to the point where I couldn't take it anymore, you know. You know, my rock bottom for me was I became homeless at the end, and yeah, it was a very lonely place for me, and yeah, resort to doing things that I could never imagined myself doing, you know. And that was my rock bottom, you know. And yeah, I just decided I can't do this to myself anymore. And I just that's when I made the decision that I need to change something here because I just can't do it anymore, you know. So that's when I started the journey of recovery then, and
Brilliant.
you know, so
And after going through your recovery journey, I can obviously imagine it's a very traumatic journey to go through. What kept you going through that journey when it probably would have been quite easy to give up at times, and go back to kind of the previous life that you were living? What kept you going through that?
I suppose I was mentally scarred from the years of active addiction. You know, I was traumatized from it and I never wanted to go back there again. So that kind of inspired me to stay in recovery. I just kept reminding myself of how bad it really got. And I says to myself that I'm never going back there again and I'll do anything to stay in recovery, you know. And it was quite challenging, you know. It was quite challenging at times. There is times in early recovery where I wanted to go back using, go back to that sort of life, but thank God I didn't.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask, because during that journey, I can imagine that you had broken promises to yourself, you had broken promises to other people. How did you gain back that trust, I suppose, most importantly to yourself, but to others and your kind of loved ones and family then?
Yeah, it would have took time. When I came into recovery, I had to realise that things weren't on my watch anymore, you know. I had to kind of acknowledge the fact that I hurt a lot of people, especially my loved ones. I had to realise that you know, how the effect my actions had on them. So, you know, I had to give things time and prove things through my actions, you know, and not to try and rush things or demand respect. You know, I really had to earn it. I really had to earn the respect back, and it took time. But I just continued doing the right things, and through my actions I was eventually able to build relationships and mend things with my loved ones.
Brilliant. I mean, you've definitely been through tougher things than this ice bath now,
Yeah.
but I am definitely starting to feel the chill.
Yeah,
Will we
yeah.
go to the hot tub and
it's
continue
getting
this conversation?
a
I'm
bit
starting
chilly.
I'm starting to shake here.
Yeah, you're starting to go blue.
Yeah, it's all right. It's a little bit warmer in here, Robbie.
Yeah, it is.
The tingle starts to
It's
set in.
definitely welcomed anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
Cool. So I suppose we've done the ice part. So obviously you've been through tougher times in that ice bath, but the chill does start to get to you.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who's, I suppose, maybe hit rock bottom now, or going through a period of their life that's very difficult? What advice would you give to them for somebody who's going through that and feels like there's no way out of it?
Yeah, well, what I'd say is there's always a way out. You know that it's not impossible to change your life and turn things around. It really isn't. You know.
I suppose you're a testament to that.
Yeah, like, you know, in my own experience, absolutely. You know, it's you know, kind of been to hell and back. You know, so I'd be very adamant on that. Like, you can turn your life around. You know, it's not impossible. But what I'd say is, you need to have the willingness, you know, you need to identify your objective and be willing to do anything to achieve it. But just also with the energy that you put into active addiction, you need to put that same energy into your recovery.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in order to keep an addiction, it takes up an awful lot of time and energy. I can imagine it, yeah. You know, so
mental energy even.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so I think you need to transfer that energy and put it into your recovery.
Yeah.
And you should have no problem like achieving.
Yeah.
You know, abstinence. You know.
I know that there's always help out there. If you
Absolutely. Yeah, there is help, but you have to look for it.
You have to look for it yourself.
And
you have to want to do what the help is telling you to do.
Well, that's it. Like, when you seek it, you'll find it. You know, it is out there, and there's plenty of good people that can help you in your journey. That's another thing. Like, you need to find your tribe as well. There's, like, I found it in you know, I found a circle of people that are you know, doing the same thing. You know, recovering from addictions and stuff, and you know, got in with them and done what they told me. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
and just followed their advice. You know, there's people out there with a number of years of sobriety and stuff. You know, so you know, I definitely seek advice off them, and yeah, and you just take their guidance. You know.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. Part of your recovery spent a lot of time, I suppose, in terms of looking at fitness between mental fitness, physical fitness, and running.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, a man who's ran 12 marathons,
Yeah.
absolutely insane. What does running mean to you now? Obviously, an important part of your life now.
Yeah, look, I love running, Stephen. I absolutely love it. It power washes my brain. You know, that's what I do
Brilliant.
say
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
It's like it power washes my mind, you know.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I just love how it makes me feel,
yeah.
you know. And
Is it a replacement, do you think, of the I suppose the thrill that you'd get from a substance? Does the running replace that, or is it very different?
it probably does, because, you know, I suppose the majority of my life I kind of would relied on things
Yeah,
um, to kind of determine how I felt, you know. And unfortunately, for many years, it would have been negative things I would have relied on to make me feel good, you know.
yeah,
So, yeah, part of me recovery kind of was having to find things that, you know, that they're not harmful,
yeah,
but can also provide a good feeling,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So I think that's why I really latched on to the running when
yeah,
I got introduced to it.
yeah,
Um, by a couple of people that I would have met along the way, and started running with them, and yeah, I really liked how it made me feel, you
brilliant.
know, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it just
I
took off from there.
I think that's absolutely brilliant what you're just saying there about that you relied on things to make you feel a different way.
Yeah, yeah,
And even to me, I think that that's a really helpful way of looking at it from an outsider's point of view of to I suppose understand it. That you're relying on things outside of your control to make you feel a certain way.
yeah, yeah. Like, if I think back to you know, in my years of active addiction, like I just wanted to be asleep all the time, you know. When I woke up in the morning, I'd be, you know, looking to take, you know, sleepy substances,
Yeah,
you know. Like, I'd be only getting out of bed and I'd want to be put back asleep, like,
yeah,
you know. So
yeah,
that kind of sums up how life was,
yeah,
you know, in active addiction, you know.
yeah,
Just wanted to be asleep all the time and numb and not to feel anything, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, it kind of leads into, I suppose we will get back to the running as well, but it leads into something that I wanted to ask you as well, because I suppose anybody with their eyes open now can see the epidemic of cocaine in the country at the minute. I mean, I don't go out an awful lot, but when I do, you nearly always come across it now in the
yeah,
toilets and stuff.
yeah.
What's your view on that? I suppose for somebody who's obviously been through a harder side of that, and I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's just a social drug," but where do you see that going? Like, where does that end, or is it even that big a problem?
Yeah, it's a massive problem. So it is, and it's very sad. You know, I come across an awful lot of people that are at their wits' end because of cocaine use. You know, and it's very complicated. It is,
Yeah,
Steve. You know, there's a lot of ego attached to that substance. You know, and it's, as you said, it's very sociably acceptable. You
yeah,
know, but at the end of the day, like, a cocaine addict is the very same as any other addict. You know, an addict is an addict. Like, you know, it's just a different substance. You know, and but they're the very same as the man on the street there with the cup that relies on heroin.
yeah,
You know, it's you know, it's the very same, but because it's so socially acceptable,
yeah,
you know, people think, I'm not as bad, or at least I'm not doing heroin or whatever.
yeah,
But it really is, it's really the same sort of thing, you know.
yeah,
It brings you to the same place,
yeah. An
you know.
addiction is an addiction, regardless of the substance.
Yeah, it all has the same destination, you
Yeah,
know. But yeah, like, I think, like, don't be under any illusion the drugs are here to stay. in my opinion, you know, and I think that the cocaine will be a prevalent issue until something else takes over, you know, and that's just how it is, you know, and it's just a growing issue now, with people, you know. Everyone seems to be taking it, and you know, I would link into a lot of recovery circles and stuff, and be kind of in the middle of that, and engage with a lot of people and try and help people where I can. So I'd see it all the time, witnessing it firsthand, like, you know, and the devastation it's causing in people's lives.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's massive. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about the running, I suppose, because I want to chat about mindset, and that's comes down to the crux of why we do this with the Ice Bath Diaries, is talking about the resilience piece. So we can link into your story so far and the resilience that you've shown to get through that, and I want to tag that a little bit to running. So, as a man who's done 12 marathons, you know all about the wall and how it hits. How do you get through that? So, what does be going through your mind when you hit that wall in a marathon?
Yeah, geez, the wall. I'm too familiar with the wall, you know. I suppose, you know, that's the place when, you know, you really have to dig deep, you know, and you need to utilise, you know, all your experience of challenging situations to get you over that particular moment, and just to get you to the finish line, you know. You know, when that comes around, when you're running a marathon, you know, it's it forces you to kind of dig deep, you know, and forces you kind to reflect on your life, you know, and to try and get energy from other challenging situations that you may have had, and, you know, use that as your fuel just to get you to the finish line, you know. But
would that go through your mind like that? Would you say, Robbie, you've come through addiction, you can fucking get over this now? But would that be a narrative in your head, or do you go through purely sports and training?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, you'd be definitely drawn on really hard times in your life, so you would. But as well, to be honest, I'm kind of really have progressed in running in recent years there now, so the science part is coming into it now. I think, like, once you have the fueling right, you don't really have to worry about the wall as much anymore, you know. So because
did I read right, you're going for your sub 3? Have you got your sub 3, or is that still the target?
I'm hoping to get it this year, so that's a big lifetime goal now, you know. So working very hard now towards that, you know. So I got 3:05 is my current PB for the marathon distance. So that's some achievement though. Yeah. So you know, funny about the sub 3. They say that I think it's only 0.1 or 1% of the world's population ever finish a marathon, and then I think again there's like 6% of that percentage run it in under 3 hours. So it's a very unique cohort in the world that actually get to do that, you know. So it's something that I'm hunting down, you know, chasing down. So
as we were chatting off camera, I've signed up for the marathon as well, and I'm hoping for sub 4.5. And it's
running a marathon is a great achievement, Steve, you know.
I can only imagine. Talking about doing tough things, so we were speaking off camera as well, you completed a master's degree as well.
That's right, yeah.
Tell me about that, and how difficult it is, and it's all about resilience. That is one hell of a thing to achieve.
Yeah, come here, at times I found it harder than, give me a marathon any day, you know, that type of way. It's a different gravy altogether in terms of you know, toughness. It's mental toughness, you know, and I would think, in my opinion, mental toughness can be harder than physical toughness for me, you know. I'd rather be out there on a marathon course in the piss and the rain, grinding it out, you know, compared to the experience of doing the masters. It was a very, very tough experience, you know, especially working full time and trying to balance that. It definitely takes a lot out of you. It definitely would humble you, you know. But it was unbelievable feeling though that when you're finishing your dissertation, the last hurdle, you know, and just pressing that button and posting it. There's nothing ever beat that feeling. Like, you know.
You had a picture up on Facebook
I did,
on Instagram when you did it. I thought it was brilliant.
I was very proud of that particular moment, you know, so I was, yeah. But,
and was further education something you always wanted to do, or when did that idea start to come in?
I kind of fell into education, to be honest. Like that, I was in recovery in my late 20s, or entered recovery in my late 20s. I was living up in Dublin in kind of like a halfway house. It's like a recovery house. Yeah. So I was, and I was still homeless. So I basically went to a treatment centre at my wit's end in the end, and I think it was my third or fourth time after doing the treatment centre, but I eventually got it. And I completed that programme, and I went up to Dublin basically with a black bag, just of stuff I gathered up in the treatment centre and a few old clothes and that. And that was literally my life, you know. Right. I just had myself and whatever was in that black bag. I went to Dublin to the recovery house, and I basically built my life from there. Yeah. And what happened was I was up there, and I just starting to live again, you know, and I got an opportunity to do a level 5, QQI level 5 in community development. Yeah. And I took that on. I went and did it, and it was a fantastic experience. And it was only then they presented the idea to me about saying, do you know, when you do this, you can actually apply to go to college as a mature student. Yeah. And I was blown away by this, like, you know, and they helped me look at courses and stuff. So we looked at courses in Maynooth University and stuff, and you know, I seen that there was a youth and community course, so an opportunity to work with young people in disadvantaged communities and stuff like that. So I kind of really liked the idea of that, and I applied for it and I got it, and just ended up in Maynooth and never left. You know? So it just went the whole way.
And did you enjoy the experience then doing it at the time?
Come here was a life-changing experience. Away from the education, it was also like a therapeutic experience for me because it explained a lot of things about my own childhood and growing up in the environment I did, and growing up in a disadvantaged area, and and the effects poverty and stuff can have on an individual and their future outcomes and stuff. So I kind of learned a lot about myself as well through college, you know. So
like that's what I was going to say. I can imagine being able to draw on personal experiences of kind of theory that you're reading in books and people are talking to you about. It must be really, really helping in college to actually be able to personify something that, because usually, and as we spoke off camera, I'd done a social care degree, and I kind of spoke about how some of the theory I thought was a bit fluffy at times, but being able to actually draw on that and personalise it must have been a huge advantage.
You kind of bring a different edge to to the experience then, especially when you're qualified and stuff and you get your degree, like you have the life experience matched with the education. You know, so it really puts you in a good place, and it puts you in a good place to be able to go out and really make a difference and really empower people and help people, because having the life experience as well as the education really goes a long way, especially in this line of work that I'm doing at the minute. So
it's like that old the old thing, where you see like a supervisor coming into a building saying, I don't know what you're doing, but my book says you're doing it wrong. You just can't do that in youth work. I think that to have that personal experience and being able to relate to the problems that people are going through, and and show, I suppose, you've been through the terrible times and come out the other end of it. So it must be a real benefit to people to be actually able to see that as well.
Yeah, I don't think people realise how intelligent young people are. Young people are ingenious in picking stuff up off you. They will read you like a book in 2 minutes, you know, and they will know if you can relate to them or not, or if you hear them or not,
or if you're bluffing.
They'll suss you out, you know. They can just kind of sense it, you know.
Yeah.
So it really helps having some sort of life experience, you know, and bringing that into the work. So.
Brilliant. Robbie, what's next?
For me, I just going to, you know, continue developing my career. You know, that's kind of what I'm going to concentrate on. In terms of academics, I'm retired.
Gracefully retired.
Retired academic.
Never say that. Never say never.
That's what they said to me leaving college, believe it or not. You know, never say never, you know.
Yeah.
But for now, retired academic. Going to chase down that sub-3 marathon. That's kind of a lifetime goal. And other than that, it's just family time for me, you know.
They deserve it at this stage with the masters and being
they do. I owe them a lot in fairness, you know. So just spend time with my family and try and be present for them, and you know, and be there for them, you know. So
of course.
It's a simple life nowadays, you know, and just help a few people along the way as well is very important, you know. So
Brilliant. Robbie, thank you very much. You're a gent.
Thanks a million, Steve. Cheers.